And if my audio is working, this is a sign for me to get off, man. A sign. A sign for me to get off. Hello? Okay. There we go. Audio is working. All right. I think this is either a bug or something like that on Streamlabs. I don't know. I hate having to stop and restart my stream because that interrupts everyone's experience and then my VOD experience. So I apologize.
Some point in the
But
near
it's very
future,
frustrating for me.
it's going to slow down its attack. But back in Israel, the politicians are saying the opposite. Like they're saying that this isn't stopping.
Thank you for telling
the only
me,
reason
Owen,
it would
by the
stop
way. I appreciate that.
Is if the United States kind of used its leverage to pressure it to stop. And I think that in the long run, this is not going to be beneficial to Israel either. And its friends and allies who kind of enabled it in this moment are not doing Israel a favor.
Now, tell us about this Haaretz report. We can put this up on the screen, where this is the first paragraph of the report. The Jewish Culture Department of the Ministry of Education has walked back its agreement to help fund an annual Shavuot event that took place in 2023, organized by the Megiddo Regional Council due to Israeli Arab broadcast journalist Lucy Arisha's participation as the event's host. I am in shock, she told Haaretz. It's so hurtful to me, especially at the time we find ourselves in right now. After October 7th, there's no other word for it except racism and sullying my good name. What's going on here,
This
Ryan?
is crazy.
There is a...
Like Israel is trying to create... It's like they're giving off the vibe that they're trying to create an ethno-religious state where, like, you can only be Israeli and you can only be Jewish. And you can't have interracial, interfaith marriage. That's what they're giving off right now.
A racist bloc
that's fucked.
that's
screwed up.
Significant power inside the Israeli government at this point.
How do you
when
not
we
swear
say
at
that this
that?
is the most far right Israeli government in Israeli
It
history.
is wild.
It's not hyperbole. Like that, the Israeli government itself would say
They're
that is
basically making interfaith and interracial marriages and unions illegal because they are going to penalize you in social ways like that.
That is the case, and there is a faction within that coalition that believes things that here in the United States are just abhorrent and repellent, such as a woman who represents mixed marriage cannot represent Jewish culture, according to this element of the ministry, and it's as the spotlight shines on some of these practices, because the world is now paying so much close attention. The claim that Israel often uses in its defense, that it is this beacon of democracy, it's the only democracy in the Middle East.
It's not.
Begins to fall apart. Because if you're the only democracy in the Middle East, what is this?
Yeah, exactly.
We do not associate this type of state action with democracy.
Mm-hmm.
And they're saying, okay, regarding the event, it appears that there was a failure in communication between the director and the supervisor, because just going full bureaucracy, because the publication went to the group without receiving the approval of the supervisor. According to the procedures, the activity can't be approved. So we'll see how that unfolds going forward.
Hopefully the attention gets them to backtrack on this.
But to your point, I mean, it is actually a really interesting question post-October 7th when tensions are as high as they are in Israel. Are they able to withstand the intense pressures and suspicions and, yes, racism that exists and proceed?
It's so weird how, like, the right wing, like, the Israel loves American right-wingers. But then American right-wingers are also one of the most anti-Semitic groups of people ever. They hate on the Jews. Talk about Jewish space lasers. talk about how the Jews control everything, how the Jews control, like, the banks, how the Jews control Hollywood. Like, they have all these conspiracy theories about the Jews. Yet, that's who Netanyahu comes and talks to, like evangelical Christians who vote right-wing all the time. Those are the people that he comes to America and talks to. It's crazy. It absolutely makes no sense. They said that the fires in Hawaii were made from Jewish space lasers. What? It makes absolutely no sense. Who would Nazis support in this conflict? Like, they like the genocide of Arabs, but they also hate the Jews. Honestly, that's a good question. I mean, ask the huge rally of Nazis that recently happened in Italy. Maybe, like, we need to figure out what they want to happen in this situation, because it's rallied them up, for sure. Like, I know that anti-Semitism is a huge problem. And the way that Israel is acting right now is not helping that. It's probably very, very likely that it's fermenting people to hate the Jewish state more. And that's really sad because of all the trials and tribulations and stuff that they went through with the Holocaust. But you can't expect people to love you, to be on your side, when you're committing genocide. And then doing things like, if you're in a mixed faith marriage, you can't represent like, what does it say specifically? You can't represent us? Do whatever event that is that woman wanted to do.
Seemingly democratic, banal machinations, like hosting a speaker at a government event. This is a very interesting sort of flare-up, I think, culturally.
Israel government, but not Jews.
And we also
How does that make any sense?
This clip from the European
How does
Parliament,
that make any sense,
Irish
right,
member,
Owen?
Parliament
It makes no sense. He's a self-espoused anti-Semite.
She's a controversial figure
Nazi.
within the European Parliament.
Self-espoused Nazi.
And I think, but this clip of her denouncing both Biden and Israel has gone wildly viral.
Despite the catastrophic death toll it has inflicted, Israel is losing on the ground and in the court of public opinion. There's no way that this ends that doesn't leave Israel a pariah state with occupation and apartheid on borrowed time, and they know it. So they're doing everything they can. Desperate acts of consequences of their own actions. And as Yemen shows, Butcher Biden is reporting for duty. With Europe's proud genocide by his side, they are the ones who have enabled the continuation of Israeli terror. Without them, it would already be over. So take note, Butcher Biden. The ancestors of the Ireland that you claim to be from disown you. Keep our country out of your mouth. And as for von der Leyen and genocidal Germany, with your words and deeds supporting Israel in the ICJ, not in our name. The people of Europe stand with Palestine and with South Africa.
Particularly harsh words for
Based. Anyone running against Biden should take that clip. Butcher Biden. He will be done. He will know he will not be president. If Butcher Biden catches on in America, in the domestic states, he will not be president. He's gonna lose. Butcher Biden and his own Catholic Irish background, because the Irish has been very, very pro-Palestine, like from the start. I think the Irish are like the most pro-Palestinian European nation out of all of them. So I'm not surprised. I was about to ask, who's this lady? And then when she said that she was Irish, I was like, okay, that makes total sense, because they've been super anti what Israel's doing right now out of all of the other places. And I think she was based, honestly. And I think a lot of people want to say the things that she said, but just don't have the power and aren't brave enough to do it. Yeah, Ireland's fucking based. And when like Russia tried to like do something with like international waters with like Irish like fishermen, I think like the Irish fishermen were like, no, we're not backing down. Like, we're gonna fish. Like, if Russia, you're gonna come into international waters and try to fuck us over and start World War III, then do it. We're not backing down. We're gonna do our jobs. Like, the Irishmen are like fucking based, man. They're not scared. They're gonna say the truth. Looks exactly like England. Well, a part of Ireland is technically in the UK. So, but that was so based. That was such a powerful speech. I kind of want to watch it again. And like how she like tied in all these other countries.
To be from, disown you is what all have enabled the country with Europe's fraud genocide.
And also freaking Germany coming in trying to like influence the ICJ ruling. Like, how many times, Germany, are you going to be on the wrong side of history? You genocided the Jews. Now you are going to support the Jews genociding the Palestinians. Like, how many genocides are you going to support or perpetrate? Like, Germany, you gotta look inward, man. You gotta look inward into... But that's the thing, though. They can't see past their own guilt. That they don't want to be seen as still being anti-Semitic and being, characterized as that. But now they're gonna be like supporting the genocide of Arabs just so that they are trying to make up for the sins of their fathers. Like, it just doesn't make any sense if you think it through. They're just thinking like one step ahead. They're not thinking it through multiple steps ahead. Like, history will show that the Germans, again, are on the wrong side of history.
By his side, they are the ones who have enabled the continuation of Israeli terror. Without them, it would already be
spitting. Without the US, this would be over.
So take note, Butcher Biden.
Can someone show Biden this?
Ireland that you claim to be
I bet he hasn't even been seen this. I bet nobody's shown this to him.
Out of your mouth. And as for von der Leyen and genocidal Germany, with your words and deeds supporting Israel in the ICJ, not in our name. The people of Europe stand with Palestine and with South Africa.
Particularly harsh words for Biden, Ryan, given that when Biden visited the Middle East as president, he specifically said that he can empathize with the plight of the Palestinians because he is Irish.
Mm-hmm. Right. He's very proud of his Irish heritage. When he was, right after he was won the election, a BBC reporter shouted out to him, President Biden, BBC. And he turned around and he's like, BBC? I'm Irish. What are you talking? I'm not talking to the BBC.
Yeah.
And he was steeped in this tradition. He once,
Irish
in a speech,
Catholic.
said that he was told that one of his ancestors was in the Molly Maguires, which is like this kind of mining kind of terror group.
Right.
And he said later they heard that was not true. And he said they were all disappointed because they wished it was true, because the Molly Maguires are total folk heroes among kind of Irish Catholics in Pennsylvania and in that region where he's from. So yeah, to have him called Butcher Biden, which is a very Irish kind of phrasing.
I love it.
Denounced.
I love it.
Denounced in
and
those
he's
strong
also
terms.
and he's also out of step with the Pope. Biden, he's out of step with the Pope, which is like, if he's a devout Catholic, which he likes to portray himself to be devout Catholic, he's out of step with the Pope. The Pope is saying that this is genocide, that this is not right, that this is not what is, that this war needs to stop. So Biden is out of step with his devout religious representation of God on earth, the Pope, and his heritage people,
lands, even if it's not from the very top of the Irish government.
Yeah, because the
Going
Pope
after
is sort of
Germany, too,
woke.
there.
But he
Also
said something,
quite
he's
nervous.
anti-surrogacy,
spare
so
anybody
that's
in
not
general.
very woke
No,
of him.
the harsh words all around.
Hey, if you liked that video, don't forget to hit the like button. And
I think the current Pope is what is necessary to bring Catholicism into the 21st century. I think that's why they elected him as Pope. Because they knew that they needed to change the Church, the Vatican, or else they would lose a lot of, they needed to modernize. I disagree with that, but I think that religion is very fallible and has been. I just think that people put too much weight on religion, and they use it too much as like a weapon, when it's just really supposed to be like, well, this is my point of view, like a personal relationship with God. It's like a moral compass. It can be, a guiding compass for your ethics. I don't think it should be used to rule other people, to shame other people. Like, Christianity is based on a resurrection that never happened. Well, the 4 Gospels were written by anonymous Christians and heavily edited by later Catholic. Yeah, I do not believe that the Bible is infallible. I think it was put together by a bunch of men, literally, the gender, and also men as in humanity, humans, and humans are fallible and we are not God, and subject to misinterpretation and subject to our propensities, negative and positive propensities. Notice how there are no female gospels in the Bible. And how there can be only male bishops and male priests. And male popes. But there have been gospels that never made it into the Bible that were written by females. But they decided, nope, females don't deserve to be in the Bible. And also, like what if God had a child? Like, what if, like, Mary had a descendant and the church was supposed to be left to a woman instead of a man? But back in those times, that would be just sacrosanct. That's blasphemy. You can't have a woman. Like, the legacy of Christ can't be left down to a woman. God forbid. Yeah. Yeah, and women should stay out of politics, right? And it's kind of like bled into the patriarchal society, and that's why there aren't any big leftist women or political streamers on Twitch. The biggest one maybe is like Denims, and she's not even that big. She's big compared to me, but like all the big lefty like commentators and figures and streamers, they're all male. Hassan, Varosh, both male. I don't consider Destiny left-wing, but he's also a male. Who else? Aaron. Great guy, great politics. He's a male. People don't like women talking about politics, period, let alone be a leftist. Because they've allowed to be in politics. Like Sargon of Akkad, he talks about how like politics is the hobby for males, so women should stay out of it. because like women have their own hobbies like knitting and like makeup and stuff like that. But like politics is like the hobbies for men. That's why. But it's like, what the fuck? Like, try not to swear, but it's so hard. But Sargon Akkad like fell off too. So like there were so many independent left streamers, but there is maybe one big lefty Twitch female streamer that's talking about politics. Like there should be more. There should be more. We should get a voice, and maybe we can actually bring a valuable opinion to the table too. Maybe there'd be less war if there were more women in government. Maybe the ratio would be different. Maybe we would have less war. Have you seen the Jubilee video, Men Feminists versus Female Anti-Feminists? There's a woman in it who says women are too emotional to rule, but supports Trump, who literally cried on Twitter. Yeah, it's internalized misogyny, and it's oftentimes conservative women too who are raised to be very religious as well, and women are often shamed into being like quiet and demure as they grow up, and men are taught to be like loud and outspoken. You know, I'm hoping that's changing nowadays, especially in America. But there are still places, especially in the South and red states. This is why I would like to raise a child north of the Mason-Dixon line in a blue state, preferably in New York. I would like to get out of Atlanta. The years that I've moved to America, I have not experienced as much racism as I've moved to Atlanta. Like, Atlanta is racist. Even liberals in blue liberal Atlanta, I've experienced more racism the few years I've lived here than the many, many, many years that I've lived in New York City.
All right, guys, welcome to the show. I got an amazing one for you today.
Shit.
So later on, we will get to
And
Donald
it's
Trump
blatant.
was reportedly super ticked off inside a courtroom.
And people really
it's
just
a
don't
$10 million
care. Like, if I had
hearing.
told this girl's, like, friends what she did, they would have been like, whatever, it's fine. They wouldn't care. Because they value, like, keeping their friend group together than actually standing up for what's right and what's wrong and what it says about her character. And that also says a lot about their character, the fact that they don't care. But if somebody did that to me in New York, and I told the group of friends that, they'd be out. They'd be done. That's unacceptable.
We're going to go through, and he's already found liable, so he's already guilty.
And if anybody
how much is he going to have to
of
pay?
that group of friends is watching here and is wondering what I'm talking about and want to know,
we'll also get to Nikki Haley now.
You can reach out to me and do the right thing.
Yourself, and Democratic
But they won't.
Politicians are coping and seething over
is why I
Donald
don't
Trump
hang out with
having a
them
blowout
anymore.
win in Iowa. In fact, they're trying to pretend like it wasn't a blowout win at all.
If I
really
bump
bad
into
news for
them
Trump
while I'm out,
that he had
Atlanta is a
literal
small
historic
town.
win in Iowa.
Small
So
city,
we'll talk about
small
all that
ass
and more.
city.
Everybody do me a big favor.
Smallest
Please subscribe
city
to the
I've ever
channel.
lived
It helps
in.
out massively in the
If I
algorithm.
bump
It
into
doesn't
them,
cost you anything.
I'll
and
be
it takes
cordial.
2 seconds, and I love you, and I appreciate
But
you if you indeed do click that button. So
I'm
without
not
any
gonna
further
make-
ado, let's dive into it
Make
here.
an
Let's start
effort to
with
be
updates
friends
in the
with
Middle
people
East.
who are racist
And
towards me.
not shocking to say this, but it ain't pretty, man. It's
And
really,
don't
really
care
ugly. So first
if
of all, the Jerusalem
somebody
Post
they
is
know
reporting
is
that
racist
Netanyahu
towards
has
me.
said to communities that live along the Gaza border on the Israel side that the war is going to continue until 2025. 2025. Now, by the way, let's be clear. This isn't a war. It's not a war. It's a slaughter. That's what it is.
The
You have
Iran
bottle
Pakistan
rockets versus
issue?
a super advanced military
I mean,
backed by
it's-
the world's sole superpower.
Of course
It's
I
not
went
a war.
off.
Let's stop
Somebody
calling it a
being
war.
racist
It's
towards me? Yeah,
definitely
of course
not
I
a war.
went off. I don't
Okay,
know
so he
what
wants it to go to
race you are,
2025. Why?
Owen.
Well, we all know.
But when you're a
Smotrich,
minority,
Ben-Gvir, all these
like
top
I
Israelis-
went from being a majority, like best position in society in Hong Kong, And then I moved to the United States of America into a minority. I love New York City. Great. Minor racism, but nothing like microaggressions. But the amount of racism I experienced down here, this is real racism. And people self-segregate. Different races don't like to mix. Ever. They self-segregate. And I've literally went into a bar, and this is like the same group. There's another member of this group of friends, like literally said, and they're Indian themselves, Indian heritage. There's too many Indians in here. We have to go to another bar. I'm leaving. They said that because he's usually the token Indian in that group of friends, but there were other Indians around. And he was like, there's too many Indians around here. We gotta go. Like, that's crazy ass. And I called him out. Nobody else called him out. And I literally called him out. Like, how can nobody call you out for that? Like, it's just emblematic of just, like, these people. Like, it just gets me so mad. And it's not a big deal to them. And it's not going to even, like, make a difference. I could tell you what she did to me, this girl, this white-ass girl.
Officials have made clear they want to ethnically cleanse Gaza, and they want to resettle Gaza. So that's one of the reasons why it would go on for really, really long. The other reason is Netanyahu is trying to save his ass politically. He knows he's deeply unpopular. Basically, the second the war is over, so is his political career. You know, the walls are closing in on him for his corruption scandal and for his Supreme Court scandal where he tried to go full authoritarian and nullify their power. People don't agree.
I don't
with
know
how
what
much
level
he failed
of
when it comes to
racist jokes you do towards
October
each
7th.
other.
So
but
that's why he would do this.
That's unacceptable
This
in
is
my friend group.
horrible.
You can't
and this is something where
do
the
that
US,
level of racism
if they were
and be like,
even
oh, it's
somewhat
just a joke.
reasonable or
It's
moral
not
or
just a
ethical,
joke.
would check
It's
his
always
ass and
just
say,
a joke to the white
hell, it's
people
not going to
saying
2025.
Or
We're going to cut
doing
off
it.
all your money, all of your weapons.
It's not just a
sanctioning
joke.
you through the UN.
I'm telling you,
Like,
even if they're your
there's a
friends,
million things you could do, but of course
if
the
you're
US
the
is not
white
going to do it
person
because there are no
saying it,
real red lines for Israel. All right,
it's
let's
still
continue
going to
here.
hurt.
So,
Even if they don't
according
tell
to
you.
Axios, and we talked about this the other day, the U.S. had this plan to normalize relations between Israel and Saudi Arabia, even in the midst of the Gaza genocide, and then Biden was going to do a victory tour, bragging about getting peace in the Middle East. Okay, this is literally just the Donald Trump, Jared Kushner plan of pretend Palestinians don't exist.
There's no
try
such
to
thing
work
as
around
serious
them, and just
racism.
let's all
I'll tell
play
you that.
pretend. Let's make pretend that
That's
the
how
Palestinians
people, like,
don't
get
exist
away
and everybody's
with
all happy
racist
and
stuff.
hunky-dory here. So that plan leaked, and then the
Like,
White House was
that
thoroughly
would probably
embarrassed
be an
by it 'cause
excuse
everybody
of
was
what that
making
girl
fun of
did.
their plan,
Oh, that
and they
wasn't
sort of had to back off of
serious.
it. So now we learn
Serious
according to
racism is
Sullivan,
like slavery.
U.S. post-war strategy still
So it's
links
not a big
Saudi
deal.
and Israel peace deal, so normalization between those two. But
Or she
now
just
there's a
flat
twist.
out deny it.
There will be a two-state solution that's a part of this, and it will involve basically Mohammed bin Salman, the Saudi crown prince, as the head of Gaza. Okay, well, when you
I
read the
can't.
specifics, of
It's gonna be
course,
so
this is
fucking
not
mad.
actually a two-state solution by any stretch of the imagination.
And I don't even know
They're
why I'm
basically little
protecting her. The
Bantustan's,
fact that I'm not like calling her out by name, the
semi-autonomous
fact that I'm not even
enclaves.
telling you like
The Palestinians do not have
blasting
an
her on
actual
the
state.
internet and saying
they
what
don't
she
have
did
full
to me.
sovereignty or independence or control of their
Like,
own
me
resources, or even
protecting
control of
her
their
is being
airspace,
nice.
or even the ability to defend themselves and have their own
I
security.
still haven't told
In
any
this
of
scenario,
her friends
basically,
because I
Israel's still in charge,
know
but MBS
how
is the
they're going to
figurehead
react.
of Gaza. So Kenneth Roth here comes out and says, why is the Biden administration banking on the Saudi crown prince, who could care less about Palestinians, to press Israel to accept a two-state solution? Does the administration forget its own leverage? $3.8 billion in annual military aid and massive arms sale. And Adam Johnson chimes in and says, because the goal is permanent subjugation and second-class status for Palestinians and creating a venal, native informant government for the West Bank and Gaza is the order of the day. And for some bizarre racist PR reason, acting like MBS is the Pope of the Arabs is key to this. He continues, and it's not a deal Israel wants, mostly because they know it's a fake photo op thing, and they don't even want a Vichy government in Gaza. They simply want Gaza wiped off the map. The Pope of the Arab stuff is a State Department compromise. What do these Abraham Accord peace deals between Israel and Gulf dictatorships have to do with a two-state solution? The answer is they end all pretense of establishing a meaningful Palestinian state. Faking like Gulf dictatorships and the US and Israel were working towards some mysterious far-off two-state solution was an essential part of justifying apartheid and the siege and prison-like status of Gaza. The Abraham Accords and their silly photo ops remove all pretense. Any media, including the MBS as Pope of the Arabs Theater, any media indulging the MBS as Pope of the Arabs Theater needs to explain why a recent poll showed Saudi Arabia has a 5% approval rating in Gaza. If Saudi approval is supposed to confer Arab legitimacy...
I can't. What does he say now?
What do you make of these attacks between Iran and Pakistan?
As you can see, Iran is not particularly well liked in the region. Yeah. And where that goes, we're working on now. I don't know where that goes.
How was your meeting yesterday?
What does that even mean?
I got the meeting over.
Where are these sticking points at the border agreement? Where are the disagreements?
I don't think they have these sticking points yet.
Are the
This is
airstrikes
him.
in Yemen working?
Well, when you say working, are they stopping the Houthis? No. Are they going to continue? Yes.
The question was, how do you feel about the airstrikes in Iran and Pakistan? And he goes, well, Iran is not particularly liked in the region. What?
Speak with members of Congress.
I think the vast majority of members of Congress support aid to Ukraine. The question is whether or not a small
Why is he
minority
squinting like
hold
that?
it up with
Why?
disaster.
Mr. President, how concerned are you with the Arab American votes during this election? And what Iowa means to you, to your re-election race?
Well, I don't think Iowa means anything. The president got 50-some thousand votes, the lowest number of votes anybody's won got. You know, this idea that one way I
The clouds are
characterize
bright.
any way he wants. I'll let him make that judgment. What was the second part of the
The
question?
part was, are you concerned with the Arab American votes voting for you during
He
this
should be
election
concerned.
because of Gaza? Many say they will not vote for you.
Well, look, the president wants to the former president wants to put a ban on Arabs coming into the country. So we'll make sure we understand who cares about the Arab population, number one.
So he's saying, choose between me killing Arabs overseas or not letting them coming into the country. Okay. Which evil are we gonna choose?
Number two, we got a long way to go in terms of settling the situation.
Yes, Trump would be worse. Trump would be worse on Israel. He would be involved. Way more involved.
What's your message to those attending?
March.
What?
I know that.
What's your message to those attending?
March. Not the one. We're going to do what we can to implement the recommendations of the Justice Department, but I don't know if there's any criminal liability.
Were you briefed by the Attorney General on this?
I was briefed by my staff on it.
This is just sad. Like, because this is what his presidency is going to be remembered for. Is this war and his backing of Israel. Like, this is what he's going to be remembered for. This is going to be his legacy. Sucks to suck. Sucks for him. He's doing it. He can make a change, but he's doing it. All right, so we're not in a government shutdown. The House managed to do something. Congress managed to do something.
A bill that would prevent a partial government shutdown. It now heads to President Biden's desk. CBS News congressional correspondent Nicole Killian joins us now. Nicole, great to see you. How did this get through both the House and the Senate?
I know.
Well, it is a bit of a miracle, Bob. I mean, look, there was a lot of angst at the beginning of this week and even the beginning of this month as to whether or not Congress would be able to avert a shutdown. But we really saw a significant breakthrough first when we saw congressional leaders reach that agreement over top line spending that guides the overall appropriations process a couple of weeks ago. And then at the beginning of this week, of course, we saw that agreement between Speaker Johnson and Leader Schumer and the other congressional leaders to move forward with, again, keeping this laddered or staggered approach to extend government funding to March 1st and March 8th, basically sliding that timetable because, as you know, government funding was due to run out at the end of this week, January 19th, and then again on February 2nd for other federal agencies. So we're basically just sliding the scale for about a month to 6 weeks. And the hope is that, lawmakers in both chambers can get these appropriations bills that they've been working on for many months now,
pushing
get
the ball
over the
down the
finish line
road.
so that
They
they
didn't
don't
even
have
really
to
do
another
anything.
CR in the future.
Oh my God.
It wasn't unanimous, so who were the strongest objectors?
Yeah, well, really, a lot of this was coming from the House Freedom Caucus, at least over on the House side. I mean, we saw that this CR passed overwhelmingly, but interestingly, among Republicans, they were nearly split right down the middle. I believe it was 107 to 106 in terms of those in favor and those opposing. And we did see this last-minute effort on the part of some House of Freedom Caucus members who tried to get Speaker Johnson to amend this CR by including a border provision, a border amendment to it. As you know, that continues to be a big wedge issue with respect to this national security supplemental, which is separate in terms of dealing with a lot of foreign aid assistance. That's why congressional leaders were at the White House earlier this week. But again, Republicans have made clear that they really want to see some action on the border. So there was this late push to try to get that border amendment attached. In the end, Speaker Johnson didn't acquiesce, and so they did just vote on a clean up or down vote. But most of those opposing being the ones who didn't really support the Speaker moving forward with this CR.
Speaking of the Speaker, Speaker Johnson, what's the status of his job, especially as some House Republicans voice their frustration about how he's handled all of this?
Republicans
are
a mess,
facing increased threats from members who are considering invoking this motion to vacate. Most recently, Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia suggested that she may invoke
I can't believe I live in the state where Marjorie Taylor Greene
that we saw was used to oust former Speaker Kevin McCarthy last fall. She says that she's willing to do that if the Speaker ultimately ends up moving forward with Ukraine aid, which again is tied into this national security supplemental.
Why are they tied together? Why?
Right
do it
away.
separately.
Of course, it includes funding for Israel, humanitarian
Why are they
assistance
tied
for Gaza,
together?
aid to the
What is the
Indo-Pacific,
reasoning for
and
that?
some border funding. But as you know, Bob, there have been a number of
Pass them
starts and stops
separately.
as far as those border negotiations are concerned. And so, the hope is that with this White House meeting this week, it could move the ball forward. But
Can somebody
ultimately,
tell
if
me?
it does move forward again, that could potentially jeopardize Speaker Johnson's job. He has made clear that he's not really concerned with those threats right now, that he has a job
How many
to
times
do.
are they going to
At
change
the moment,
the
he
speaker?
seems to be playing down those threats.
And Nicole, very quickly, any new reporting on the foreign aid negotiations?
Well, again, following that White House meeting on Wednesday, it appears that there is some momentum to move forward with this supplemental package. Leader McConnell indicated the Senate could vote on this as soon as next week. And Leader Schumer also said that he believes the negotiators are extremely close on a deal. They're just trying to iron out a few more differences. So whether or not that package comes to the floor again remains to be seen if it happens next week, but that certainly is the hope among some lawmakers. The bigger question is when and if it does, what will happen to it in the House?
Nicole Killian, on top of everything on Capitol Hill, we really appreciate your reporting.
Okay, we have to watch this. Let's just have some levity for a second. All right.
I want to thank all the evil gays.
I love her. She's hilarious. I love her.
And you know who I want to thank? I want to thank me. For believing in me and doing what they said I could not do. And I want to say that
I don't think that was Snoop.
beautiful people. Go on, girl, with your bad self. You did that. Finally.
And the Emmy goes to Io. Get your ass up here.
I feel like all the same people are winning.
Before we get into the nominees
Oh my God,
for
love him.
Best Supporting Actor in a Drama Series, I'd like to take
I don't
just
know
a
why
second
she was so pissed.
and make this about me. A lot of people have been asking about my arm. It's actually my shoulder.
The Last of Us.
And I think tonight is a perfect time to tell everyone that Kieran Culkin beat the shit out of me.
Because he's been winning the awards that he's been nominated
Here
for.
are the nominees for Supporting Actor.
From Succession, probably. They've just been sleeping awards.
I am so happy
She
to be able
won!
to
Oh,
get
yay.
this. I didn't prepare anything because I just didn't think. Oh God, I love my mom, my dad, my sister.
Ooh.
The red carpet. Oh, actually, it's still the
That was
carpet.
shade.
That's right, guys. It's still the carpet. And then we're also going to be seeing lots of.
Mama, I
Do you have the envelope?
Hospitality as a whole.
If that was a man or a woman, that would not be acceptable.
You're welcome.
I don't care about the A-listers. Like, I could care less. I want to meet Padma Lakshmi. Okay?
She was just here.
Give me,
You just missed her.
Oh my
Just
God.
missed her.
You know, like, give me all of the Top Chef panel. Give me all of the RuPaul's Drag Race girls. Like, that's what I want.
Classically trained.
Those are my A-listers.
And they're beautiful. And they're beautiful. On behalf
Who is the gremlin?
thank you.
Who is the gremlin? Nobody knows. He has the Mandalorian. He has the Oppenheimer suit.
sign. It's kind of covered.
Mom scams.
And I love Kieran Culkin, and he's my absolute favorite to work with, even though he's an asshole to me, and I hate him in a personal life.
You really hate me, don't you? You look lovely. You smell nice.
I mean, how much do you love him?
Well, I do. I'm pretty crazy about him. But he's also a brat. Paul Walter Hauser, Blackburn.
He's like eating. Dude, this guy is eating while he's winning, yo. I love it. I love it.
Oh, my wife loves her show.
A week ago, you won a Golden Globe. You made an iconic speech. A week later, you're back at another award show as a nominee. Have you come
She
down
also
from cloud nine yet?
won the Critics' Choice as well. She's probably gonna win the Oscars too.
8.5 works for me. Anyway. Anyway, we have to. You look stunning.
Most of it was from that very first take that was unrehearsed.
Wow, that is incredible. I got a question. Hard pivot, but you and Jerry have a lot of sexual tension on this show.
And of course, my beautiful wife, Jazz. Thank you for sharing your life with me and for giving me two amazing kids, Zissou and Wilder Wolf. I love you so many and so much. And Jazz, I want more.
Oh my God, no pressure.
You said maybe if I win. So much. Thank you.
Oh my God.
Now, what story are you telling us with
He
this
brought
beautiful
his
ensemble tonight? You
sister.
look stunning.
It was also stunning. And she won too, and she's probably gonna win the Oscars as well.
Now you have the whole country of Ireland that has fallen completely and madly in love with you.
Shout out to my people. Shout out to Derry. Shout out to Cork. Shout out to Killarney. Shout out to Dublin.
You know, this.
Thank you. And to anyone out there who, directly or indirectly was involved with the show, thank you so much. And lastly, everything I do is for my 3 dogs, so...
So where are you putting all your awards? You're getting a lot of them.
I got, my kids have these 2 little stuffies of Bert and Ernie, and so the Globe is currently in between Bert and Ernie. And they haven't sent me the frickin' critics yet.
Where are you going to put that? Next to Big Bird?
We don't have a Big Bird yet. We should get a Big Bird. The problem with the Big Bird stuffy is it's the same size as all the others. Grover, Elmo, you got all of them. They're all the same size, and I wanted to get a Big Bird, but it's this big. Shouldn't it be...
Well, it's a big bird.
Shouldn't it be bigger?
This big.
It should be a big bird.
I don't remember the toy company that makes it, but take a fucking note.
Is it
Make the
Mattel?
Big Bird big.
Oh, you're in it. You are in this session.
We have 3 more big awards tonight. Lead actress in a drama series, then the awards for Outstanding Comedy Series and Outstanding Drama Series. Somebody peaked a little too soon tonight.
How do you take off his jacket?
Don't pick it up. I couldn't do the button. I wasted all my time hugging everybody. I love you all so much. I'm not gonna have any time. I don't want to get yelled at, so
Okay, girl, you're in custom Vuitton at the Emmys as a nominee, as a Golden Globe winner. What would you say to younger Aya who had dreams of nights like this?
She didn't dream of nights like this. She sort of dreamed of just like dental insurance. So I would say we've got dental, we got eye, we got ear. We can go.
We can't have anything nice in America. Back to healthcare. But we have money to fund wars in the Middle East and killing children. But we can't have money to fund people like actors or freelance people who just want dental insurance. The fact that we need dental insurance to make it affordable, like, it should just be affordable.
The dermatologist, get that yearly checkup, check your moles, people.
Hello, everyone. Tom Hiddleston wants all of you to know that he loves me very much. Right, Tom?
I love you, man.
Nominees for lead actor in a limited series or movie.
I have to thank my manager, Emily Gerson-Sains, who I've been with for about 29 years. Sorry, Emily, you probably didn't want me to say the number, but I did.
For its first eligible year, the Bear has received 13 nominations. Tonight, they
And
have
won
won
like
6
everyone.
Emmys.
People feel good by eating something the show happen every single day, and it's really beautiful. It's hard work. It's early hours. We don't see the sun for 3 months. We shoot on a sound stage. It's really cool.
Thank you so much. Oh my God. You're totally shaming me with disability by standing up. It's fine. Okay.
Jeremy Allen White, the Bear. Jeremy Allen White, the Bear.
Thank you. I'm so proud.
Because he's already won the
I'm
Golden
so
Globe,
full of
the
gratitude
Critics'
to be
Choice,
standing in front of you.
now
Thank
the
you, thank you,
Emmy,
thank you, thank
now
you.
he's waiting for the Oscar.
Household would be like with their Succession. Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing this evening?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Progress has been made, and it truly warms my heart to see how well men are doing in comedy now. Good.
Oh, man. I think I'm gonna have to... I think there was this one video that I wanted to watch. Let's watch some Charlie video.
Best way to start your morning is with a big frown on your face. So get ready to
That's
wear.
11 minutes though. I don't know about that.
Into the news, and we got a lot of news to talk about today. We're talking about this crazy fake kidnapping that turned out wasn't fake, adoption crackdown, new Andrew Tate ban, the DOJ.
Okay.
Down below. And then in social media news, we have YouTube going after what's been described as the cult of Andrew Tate, with YouTube now removing even more channels that are promoting Tate's The Real World program, and that notably after a Vice investigation detailed alleged predatory practices. With Vice saying that the program, which has subscriptions that start at $49 a month, has critics who claim that the platform targets and exploits young men and teens by promising them money and success if they commit enough time and money to the real world, which advertises itself as the most advanced financial education platform where you escape the trappings of the Matrix. One former member claiming they spent up to 16 hours a day making social media videos to promote Tate, saying though he's out now and he feels like he escaped a cult. And these bans that we're now seeing, they're just the latest actions being taken. As we talked about in the past, Google and Apple took the Real World app out of their app stores. YouTube also said it previously took down channels associated with Tate and the program. Though you advised saying there were still accounts with hundreds of thousands of subscribers that pushed it still up. So now YouTube has banned a handful of new accounts, including ones called out in Vice's article. And as far as the official reasoning for the ban, there are different ones. You had a spokesperson saying it's against the terms of service to prominently feature content from a previously terminated user, adding that another was banned for violating the scam, spam, and deceptive practices policies. And then, I am so sorry we accidentally sent you to prison. That is what this tech company right now is saying to hundreds of people. Though to understand this, we gotta jump back to 1999. Because that's when the British Post Office started using the Fujitsu Horizon IT system to automate sales accounts, which sounds boring and sanitary enough. But shortly after it was implemented, local post office managers or sub-postmasters noticed that money was seemingly going missing. And the state-owned post office took the side of the massive tech company, saying, hey, this software, it is reliable, and the money missing was obviously the fault of the postal workers. And so between 1999 and 2015, more than 900 sub-postmasters were prosecuted for theft and false accounting. 700 were convicted of criminal offenses. Right, so some went to prison, many were financially ruined, and some even took their own lives because of this. And again, these prosecutions were based on the Fujitsu Horizon software, which, lil whoopsie, turned out to be full of bugs and defects. So in 2016, a group of these postal workers sued the post office, with it then taking the High Court in London another 3 years to find that the Horizon system was buggy and that the post office actually knew. And following that legal win, hundreds of sub-postmasters came forward. So far, reportedly, only 93 convictions have been overturned. And understand, these convictions have been called the greatest miscarriage of justice in British history. And that's not some random being hyperbolic. That is literally how the government has described it. And so following the 2019 win for the sub-postmaster, public inquiry was launched in 2020 that'll determine who's responsible for this insane clusterfuck. This has also gotten a lot of attention because of a recent TV drama, with it centered around the impact on the sub-postmasters' lives, and it's caused massive public outrage, even prompting Prime Minister Rishi Sunak to announce plans for Parliament to quash hundreds of these convictions. And also this week, we ended up seeing the tech company actually apologize for their part. The head of their European division, Paul Patterson, saying to a committee this week,
we were involved from the very start. We did have bugs and errors in the system, and we did help the post office in their prosecutions of the sub-postmasters. For that, we are truly sorry.
Oh, even the company's global chief executive apologized as well, saying Fujitsu has apologized for the impact on the postmasters' lives and their families.
The time
Over 2,500 sub-postmasters have received
prison,
compensation from the government in connection with this. So that's also been bogged down with delays, and many also say it's not enough, arguing that Fujitsu should absolutely be on the hook. And Patterson, Fujitsu's own, agreed, saying, I think there is a moral obligation for the company to contribute. We have a part to play and to contribute to the redress fund for the sub-postmasters. But right now, we don't know what that's actually going to look like. Patterson just saying that once the public inquiry concludes, they'll sit down with the government and discuss exactly how much the company needs to pay out, which my response is whatever number gets thrown out there, more, and then maybe more again, and then why not a little more on top of that? Also, notably, while the version that they use has been updated since this whole fucking nightmare, the CEO of the post office has also declared to lawmakers their intention of getting off Horizon IT system, saying it's outdated, it's clunky, it's old, but it does what it's meant to do. We will be getting off Horizon, and that is our intent. Also, there's another question here that needs answering. If the money reported in the Horizon system was never actually missing, what happened to the real money that the sub-postmasters paid to cover the loss? And there, infuriatingly, the post office CEO said they don't know. But Sky News reported that there is actually a chance it went to remuneration packages for executives. Like, this is the kind of shit that makes you want to tear it all down. When you're Joe Blow, it's a crime. If you're in a power position, it's a fine. Not. This isn't spilt milk. This isn't broken china. People's lives were lost and ruined. The fuckheads responsible for this should be dragged from their beds as they cling to their silk sheets. Or not. I might just be hangry. I'm gonna go get a Snickers and then I'll get back to you. I get a little dictatory when I'm hungry. Also, for legal reasons, everything I just said, I'm being hyperbolic and or sarcastic. Moving on. And then there's even more news that we gotta talk about today, but I gotta take a second and pay some bills. Because are you making travel plans for the new year yet? Well, something to keep in mind when you start to book your travel is that when you're looking for the best rates on flights, hotel rooms, rental cars, all that, companies can actually interest suddenly increases. But the sponsor of today's show, NordVPN, or more directly, nordvpn.com/Phil, they can help. Nord encrypts your network, allowing you to route through one of many servers around this. You might find yourself very surprised by what you find. And know that Nord's also working to keep your online activity secure wherever you log on. To take control of your internet experience today, go to nordvpn.com/Phil to get a huge discount on a 2-year plan, plus an additional 4 months free. That's nordvpn.com/Phil, the best deal on the internet, and it's risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. And then we need to talk about stolen babies, fraudulent paperwork, and years of lies. Because those are the reasons we're seeing some Nordic countries now moving to stop their citizens from adopting kids overseas. With the first country to bail in the industry being Sweden, which halted adoptions from South Korea late last year over paperwork concerns. And this last Tuesday, Denmark's overseas adoption agency announcing that it'd be winding down its international operations. And then that quickly followed by the Norwegian government announcing they're halting things until they conduct an investigation. Because for years, many people who have been adopted from places like South Africa, the Philippines, South Korea, and more, they've been shouting from the rooftops that their paper trails are full of fraud and just don't make sense. And looking into it, it's because often corners were cut, at times to just make the adoption faster, other times trying to hide the origin, which then often makes it hard for kids to find their biological families. But in other cases, it's far more malicious. Like, for example, you have kids being registered as abandoned, only for it to be later discovered they actually had living relatives in their native countries that would have taken them in. And in another case, where there was an investigation by a Norwegian paper finding that in the Philippines, where many of these overseas adoptions are happening, some kids were just flat out sold and given fake birth certificates, which is why we're now seeing things like the head of the Norwegian Directorate for Children, Youth, and Family Affairs saying adoptions must be safe, sound, and in the best interest of the child. And adding, our assessment is that the risk of illegalities is real. And so, of course, with this, the question is, well, what happens from here? And as far as Norway, they said that as far as cases in the middle of the pipeline, they're going to be allowed to finish. It was unclear if the same.
But like my
Denmark. There's also the question, well, how many people is this going to affect? And actually, as it turns out, fewer than you might expect. As well, thousands of people may have been affected over the decades. It's actually less common for overseas adoptions to happen nowadays. Right? Many countries actually generally prefer for adoptions to happen domestically, which is also why the international industry has seen a major downturn. Right? Denmark's only overseas adoption agency, they used to do upwards of 500 of these a year in the 70s. But now it's like only 20 to 40 a year. But that's not to say that the investigation and changes are not necessary. Because if any of those 20...
They shouldn't be stopping international adoptions. They should be more strict about it, as in like vetting. Not like be like, oh, you can't do that anymore because of, you know, possible fraud, instead of actually trying to root out the fraud, you know, rather than stopping people getting adopted. Because there are people who need to be adopted overseas, you know, from like wealthy white people, because they are orphans in the Philippines or whatever, because the Philippines was just brought up. Or Cambodia, who knows, you know?
20 to 40 involves a child literally being sold. That's one too many. And then the response
I don't even
by
think they
law
should be
enforcement to the
limiting
Uvalde mass
it.
shooting
I
was a
think they
failure,
should be
and more kids could have been saved
investigating
if the
it and
officers had
changing
responded
it.
different.
I don't
That
think they should
is no
even be
longer just my
limiting it.
personal opinion. What the Department of Justice is saying in their long-awaited and absolutely scathing report on the Uvalde massacre. With them releasing the report this morning, it's nearly 600 pages long, and it largely confirms what we knew from the state investigation, which outlined how miscommunication, confusion, and a lack of leadership led to a delayed response. And that's even though more than 370 local, state, and federal law enforcement officials responded to the shooting that left 21 people dead, including 19 children. With the DOJ specifically describing cascading failures of leadership, decision-making tactics, policy, and training that allowed the attacker to remain in the school for 77 minutes before police finally stormed the classrooms. With the report and Attorney General Merrick Garland both citing a number of factors that contributed to this, but specifically outlining one key aspect.
Within minutes of arriving inside the school, officials on scene,
and the police not doing their jobs, being cowards,
as an active
while we give them so much power to kill us
the shooter as a
with impunity.
Subject.
They can't even go to save children.
And that despite the fact that there have been widely established protocols that have been followed for literally decades. They are supposed to move towards the threat until it is eliminated, regardless of the danger it may pose to responding officers.
We give them so much power.
And that is exactly what happened here. When they got near the classrooms, they heard a round of gunfire and they quickly retreated. And they waited.
They retreated.
Even though hundreds
Look
more
how
law
armed
enforcement
you
officials
are.
arrived. And they continued to wait after even more gunshots rang out from the classroom. And they waited as police began to receive calls and messages from teachers and kids inside
What are you
the school.
waiting
In fact,
for?
went on to
There's
detail
like
what they referred
100
to
of
as
you
10
there.
stimulus events over the 77 minutes. Or specifically 10
This
key
gets me
things
so
that should have triggered law
mad.
enforcement to engage the
This gets
shooter.
me
We're talking
so
numerous
mad.
separate incidents. But saying that during that time, no one assumed a leadership role to
Yeah.
direct the response
And
towards
apparently
the active shooter.
they were
But then
like,
beyond
oh, we're
that,
looking
DOJ
for the
also
key.
described
You
other
can't break the
failures,
door
that including
down.
the medical response, the
A,
information
and B,
relayed to Uvalde parents,
nobody
and the public,
tried
and
the
specific
door.
failures of
The door
individual
was
law enforcement
unlocked.
officials. Notably, this report has received mixed responses. Where some
I
were happy that the
cannot.
agency's
I
findings reaffirm what
cannot.
they've been saying all along, but then many others say that it feels like a it falls short because it does nothing to actually hold anyone accountable.
I hope that the failures end today and the local officials.
This is why A, I don't live in Texas. B, I will send my child to a private school, and not just a private school, an international school, because people who send their kids to international schools are all the expats and all the diplomat kids. Those people don't bring guns to school. Those people don't do crazy stuff like this. So that is why. Okay? Even private schools get shot up, much less so than versus public. But I don't even want to have to worry about that, like 20%. I want to not have to worry about it. I don't care how much money I have to pay.
That day,
there's no price on losing a child.
Of Robb Elementary. Terminations, criminal prosecution.
Because while the report does outline a number of recommendations, it does not bring federal charges. Though I would say a key thing there is that is by design, where the purpose of this wasn't to form the basis of criminal charges. Instead, to outline ways to prevent this from happening again. And actually, this also, as there's already a separate ongoing inquiry by the local district attorney to determine if state charges
I have no
should be brought.
idea.
But for now, we'll have to wait
American
and watch for updates
law
there. And finally, let's talk about yesterday today.
And
We take
stuff,
a look back
like,
at yesterday's
I don't
show. We
even
dive
know.
into those comments.
I
see
would
what
not
y'all
be
have to say.
surprised.
Understandably, a lot of the conversation had to do with that botched
I think it
police
might
ring
be
where this
different
poor
state to
baby, according
state.
to its mom, got flashbang. With most disgusted
Look
and
at
furious
this.
at the police,
Look at
though
this.
some impressed. With Thunderblade 1995 saying, I can't lie, I absolutely do not have the balls to say we didn't do anything wrong after throwing a flashbang grenade at a medically precarious baby. We also had someone saying that they were a
Look
doctor
at
and
this
saying these
shit.
cops are absolutely responsible for that child being in the ICU. Saying the congenital heart defect that this child has makes it hard for his body to get oxygen at baseline. Saying even if the flashbang does not cause a continuous burn, what happens is the smoke inhalation would cause his bronchi to constrict, essentially choking the kid out. Going on to say much, much more. You can pause right here to read it all. But saying these officers should absolutely be sued within an inch of their lives. And then finally, we had
It doesn't matter if they're sued. The citizens pay for them. It doesn't matter. They have immunity. They need to be put in jail.
Daniel Castaneda saying, flashbangs are not detonated outside the intended target, in this case, the baby's house. Flashbangs are also called concussion grenades because their sole purpose is to disorient the intended target, so it would absolutely have to be detonated inside the house. The smoke seen on the cam footage is most likely exhaust gases from firing grenade launchers. Also, just because the manufacturer of the munitions used may claim that said product doesn't contain X, doesn't mean that it's okay to use around children. And going on to argue the exceptional harm that could be done to a newborn on a ventilator. But that wasn't the only story that had people sounding off. The assisted living facility expose had people sharing some wild stories. I mean, I had people hitting up the text line going like, hey, please don't share my name, but I gotta share this story. Saying things like, I work as a paramedic, and let me say, it's a running joke in the EMS community of just how useless and unprofessional the staff of a lot of assisted living facilities are. I'm not saying all are like this, but finding one that genuinely cares or can give accurate factual information during medical emergencies is few and far between. I can't tell you how many times I've asked a caregiver, what is this person's history? And their response is, I don't know, I just got here. Or I just got him/her, and they've cared for this person for over a month. I found people covered in their own feces and urine, or one lady with a broken femur that, according to staff, quote, happened last night when I wasn't here and they let her sleep it off. It needs to be fixed. Also, Nick Beebe sharing.
This is why white people put their parents and grandparents in homes. But in Asian countries, we take care of our own parents. They typically live with, if you have siblings, they typically live with the most wealthy sibling and they get taken care of. They don't get stuck in a home where they get abused. Instead, they get to live with amongst family members and get to watch their grandchildren grow up and be loved and not be abused.
I felt like you were talking directly to me today, Phil. My grandmother with Alzheimer's passed away 3 months in a Brookdale living facility. And saying this is after my father and I had cared for her condition for 5 years together. We were continuously pushed to believe they could offer her better support as they had high quality care providers for her condition.
I believe that's also in
other
other collectivistic cultures.
I had a key to go in her room, and one day just had a gut feeling to go back there at 2 a.m. after being home already for my earlier visit in the afternoon. I walked in, saw no nurses at all, and walked in to find her on the floor unconscious. And going on to say she passed away within the hour before my father could even make it to the facility. What I thought would improve her quality of life life ended up taking it. Worst decision of our lives. And the last comment I'll share on this one, though there was no shortage of those comments. Like if you want to go back to yesterday's show and go through them, there's a lot of people. We had Phantom Bobcat writing, I'm a CNA and no longer work at assisted living facilities because of the neglect. They are a complete money-making scam. Assisted living costs $5 to $10K a month here in Connecticut, and they will have one CNA and one LPN for over 100 residents.
You might as well hire a designated person to come in every day to take care of your mother or father who is elderly for that amount of money you pay for them to live there. You might as well just hire somebody, and you can make sure that there is no neglect.
Never put your family member in assisted living. They need to be regulated on a national level to prevent deaths and neglect as reported here. But ultimately, that is where we're going to end today's show. As always, thank you for being a part of these daily dives
talked
in the
to
news,
me
whether you're
about,
just
along with how, you know, Westerners view divorce, and they don't look at marriage like we do, and as well as they don't take care of their family, parent, like, members like we do. It's kind of sad. Like, I love America, and I love all the things that America stands for. I do believe in the Constitution. But, man, there are things in this culture that is not good. West is best. Oh, God, don't even. I know you're kidding, but, like, you know, I think West has a lot of good things, but also has bad things. But one of the good things about it is that I can criticize it. The thing about the East has a lot of good things, but also has a lot of bad things. And a lot of the times in the East, you can't. One of the bad things is that you cannot criticize it. So that's why I moved here, because it's just better. Because I can at least talk about the bad things and maybe affect change in some sort of way. Now, in all seriousness, though, I think the West is a lot better than other countries. I think overall, I do think that Western values are better, but there are values that I think Western countries can adopt that could improve even more and like incorporate into the Western culture, like the whole nursing home thing. I think that it's better that, like, collectivistic cultures have a better attitude with that and, like, taking care of their family members. Marriage stats and divorce rates and things like that, I think collectivistic cultures tend to have a better marriage staying together statistic. So maybe there's some validity in that. I think public transportation, healthcare, I think that's other things that Western individualistic cultures can learn a little bit more from collectivistic cultures. But I do think that collectivistic cultures have a lot to learn from Western cultures too. But ultimately, like I said, I know where my allegiance lies because obviously I chose to become an American citizen. So, you know where my ultimate choice falls. Yeah, but I would be curious to see how marital abuse is in countries with nations of low divorce rates. Yes, absolutely. You're absolutely correct. I'm sure there could be more marital abuse in low divorce rates countries, or there could be a third variable that could be creating low divorce rates and higher domestic violence. It could be religion. Could be religion. Because, like, it's not like a linear cause and effect kind of thing, right? There's a lot of different variables, extraneous variables that go into affecting divorce rates and marriage rates and abuse reasons. So I would love to read a study on all the different variables and how they isolate those variables and what statistical analysis and models they use to isolate different variables to see what the strength, to see the causality, and if there is any, and the strength of the causality, and the effect size of it, and the generalizability of that study, and how many of those studies there are, and if you can do a meta-analysis of those studies to see if there is a through line. And then also longitudinally, and not just like a slice in time, to see longitudinally how that is as well. So it would be like multiple different types of studies that I would love to read about that. But I don't have time to do politics and go on like a scholarly article hunt on this tiny topic. But yeah, that would be what I would be curious about, to see about marital abuse and divorce rates and stuff like that, and comparing that to individualistic and collectivistic cultures. I would love to write a paper on that, actually. Write a meta-analysis paper. And then publish it. That would be fun. Yep. I'd like to know about Hong Kong. And Japan. And then also like Middle Eastern countries. Central Asian countries. And then like different European countries. Because even within Western cultures and individualistic cultures, there could also be a big variance of divorce rates. Yeah. Like I said, like the culture and the religion has a big effect on whether, you know, abuse happens in marriage, right? Like a hypothesis that I would say is that there isn't that much physical abuse in Japanese marriages, and there isn't a high level of divorce. They're more pacifist, like, so like maybe Buddhists are different, you know? But that's an assumption, and that is, I could be wrong about that, or you could be wrong about that, but like a lot of things that we have do studies on with hypotheses that seem very intuitive, when we look at the stats and the numbers, they either prove us right, confirm the hypothesis, or don't confirm the hypothesis. Except what they did in the 30s and 40s. Yeah, except that. Yep. Yeah, except World War II. All right. Let's see. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. I will see you tomorrow. Maybe you'll see my little sister tomorrow evening.